Hello, everyone. It is Teresa from Teresa's Silhouette Spot for all things art, where I love sharing art from my heart and teaching creatives and crafters how to paint. So welcome, 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 everyone. We're doing the Wildflower Charger tonight, and it's nice to see you all. I have out my palette. You guys can put your colors out. You can leave them in the little cups. It's totally up to you. And again, I want to mention that if you want to do your base colors of your flowers differently than I did, that's totally fine. You want your large flower to be orange or your large flower to be this fuchsia color, go right ahead, and that is totally up to you. We're going to start with our larger brush, and I'm going to switch my camera view right now. There we go. So you guys should have something similar to this. I drew them freehand, so they're all a little bit different. We're not going to worry about the marker, because if you see on my plate, at the end we go in and we give everything a little bit of a shadow with the black. So we're not even going to, you will be able to see the marker through your paint, but it's not going to make a difference with the final result by the way we shade and highlight. So just go up here. There we go. Okay, so I am going to start out with the large flower with the yellow. So I'm going to get a bit of yellow on my brush. And yellow and orange and sometimes red tend to be a bit translucent. So I am going to dip my brush in white. I don't necessarily have to mix it. So I have this yellow on my brush, and I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to dip it in the white just to get some white on there as well. And I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to start filling in the flower petals on our first flower. And this is just the base. I think I'm going to need 2 coats. You guys will probably need 2 coats as well. And don't worry about your lines being perfect. Don't worry about not loving it at the moment, because we are going to be adding so many details to this that your finished result is going to be very different from just the base coat right now. So I'm going back over mine with yellow. I didn't go back into the white. You can if you want. I didn't go back into the white. I just picked up some more yellow, and now I have my yellow out here. My yellow is going to be different than your yellow, because my yellow is a result of my lighting and my monitor. So yours might be darker, yours might be brighter, yours might be paler because you added more white. And I'm going to keep going while I have my yellow. I put more yellow on my brush and I dip in the white again. And this time I'm going to make this flower over here yellow. So I'm just going to fill in this squiggly circle. And it really is no more than just a blob right now. Okay, so whatever color, if you chose to do a different color for your big flower, pick another blob for that color and do the base coat for that as well. I'll give you guys a couple minutes to work on that. There we go. A little something on there. That's okay. Okay.
Teresa, is it supposed to be streaking?
It is, the plate is this hard, I don't know, plastic. So it's kind of like painting on glass. You want to
Okay.
use light pressure with your paintbrush. You don't want to push hard or push down really firm. You kind of want to take it and like lay it in here. It will streak a little bit, but it shouldn't be streaky where you can see through the plate. You want to use light pressure and use, instead of get firm with your brush, just kind of like lay it on there. And this one's a little bit more. I'm trying to get a good angle for you. There we go. This one's a little bit more liney, streaky, but that's okay because once we go in and we add in all these details, you're not going to see any of that.
Teresa?
Yes.
Oh, there shouldn't be any food on this though, right?
These are not food safe, no. I mean, you can put cookies on it and use it to serve cookies on. You can put a doily on it and put cookies on top of that and use it to serve cookies on. I wouldn't put a meal on here or, you know, cheese or salad or something. And you wouldn't want to cut with, you wouldn't want to use utensils on here either. But if you just wanted to lay out an assortment of cookies or rolls or baked goods, I think it would be fine.
Okay, and then we should also just hand wash it, right?
Absolutely hand wash. Anything, the motto is anything hand painted is hand washed. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
And you can even spray these with the clear coat. So if you've been in my classes before and you have the clear coat, it's either the Acrylic. Let me change this so we can see my face.
Teresa, should we put a second coat on too?
If you want it darker, by all means, put a second coat.
Great, thank
We
you.
may have to come back and do the second coat when it dries, because sometimes if you do a second coat, it'll lift the paint. So we might want to come back and use our judgment after we base coat the other two flowers and do our leaves. Maybe then we'll come back and do a second coat if you think you need it. And then I was saying, if you want to, you can get, or if you already have the Krylon on the Rust-Oleum matte finish clear coat in a can, spray can, you can use it on these dishes as well. But ordinarily paint is not food safe. When I paint coffee mugs and wine glasses, I usually only do my design on one side of the cup. Or if it's going to like wrap around, I make sure there's plenty of blank space at that top of the cup. So, you know, people aren't putting their lips on the paint because, you know, some people might not like that. So I have now washed out my brush. And I'm going to go into the second color, which is going to be, in this case, I switched out the yellow and this fuchsia. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to paint this one with the fuchsia. And this one is definitely going to need a second coat. And don't worry when you paint in these next two flowers, if you pick up a little bit Like I just picked up a little bit of the yellow over here when I came around with my fuchsia. Totally fine. Again, if you want to dip your brush, the corner of your brush in a little bit of white, if you get the fuchsia on your brush, just dip one corner in some white and use that. There we go. And again, I'm going to wash my brush after that. And then last but not least, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get a nice coat of orange on my brush. I'm going to put a little corner in the white here. And I'm going to base coat in our orange flower. Okay. And then I'm rinsing out my brush, and then we're going to put this brush aside for a minute. But I'll give you guys some time to get all your flowers base coated in like that. This here is going to be white. We will get to that. I didn't forget. So if, see, you can see my lines and stuff. We'll go in and we'll do a second coat. I especially want a second coat on my orange and my fuchsia. I like my yellow the way it is. But if you want to do a second coat on all your flowers, that's up to you. We're going to put in the leaves first. But I definitely want to do a second coat on my orange and my fuchsia. And I in no way stayed in the flower in the lines where I drew in the flowers, and that's totally okay. And if you get a little mixture going in here too, if you pick up some yellow with the orange or vice versa, or you changed your colors altogether, it's totally fine. How's everybody's flower base coating come, okay? I was gonna say, give me a thumbs up, but a lot of you guys aren't on camera. Oh, got a thumbs up from Nancy, woohoo, and Heidi. Okay, what about you, Leslie? Got a thumbs up? You're another brave soul on camera. Okay. Okay. All right, so then we're gonna take this brush. You can wash it off and put it to the side, leave it in your water cup, whatever. I'm gonna go to our liner brush. If your liner brush has crazy hair, and it's a little bit boinging out, just stick it in the water and then dry it off really well. We want our liner brush to have nice hair. I use your guys' liner brush has the bristles are much shorter than mine because it's easier for you to control that. And I'm going to pick up this light green paint. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to paint a line. And I'm going to follow the line that I drew for you guys. You don't have to do it all in one stroke. You might have to pick up more paint. It might be a little thicker in some spots. It might be a little thinner in some spots. That's all okay.
Teresa, after we do that, can we go back and put a second coat on these flowers?
Yeah, we're gonna do the base coat of our leaves and see if they need a second coat. And then we're gonna hop back and forth. So we're gonna do
Okay.
our leaves. And then those will dry while we do the base coat on our flowers. And then if we need to do a second coat on our leaves, then we'll bounce back to our leaves. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then I think we have another little one up here, correct?
Teresa?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I was just gonna say, we have like two lines next to each other.
That
on
one,
our-
right?
No, it actually like more is like,
On both sides,
it's
right?
like kind of like two lines.
Oh,
going
yes, on both
next to each
sides.
other.
Here too, right?
Yeah, but they're not like that where they're slightly offset. They're mostly together.
Okay,
So
that's
how do-
fine. Wherever your lines are, just cover them with the paint. And then I'm gonna wash my liner brush and go back to the brush that we had. So I'm gonna pick up a little bit of this light green and I'm gonna move it. And I'm going to get the tiniest bit of black and mix that in. Just to give this a little bit of a different shade of green. Can always add more, but it's hard to take away. And there it goes. Now we have a darker green and a lighter green. And I'm just going to put some dark green on my brush and some light green on my brush. And then we're gonna go in and we're going to add our leaves, and our leaves are just a C and a backward C, and then you fill it in. Okay, I'll show you again. So we're gonna do a little bit of an arch, almost like a C, and then another C, a backward C, and then fill it in. And we're gonna stagger these down our vine. So I'm using the brush, standing upright on the chisel edge. I'm making a little curve, and then I'm coming back up here, and I'm making a little curve, and they meet, and then I fill it in. And you can make yours, if you have yours real close together. See, these are far apart. I'm just going to add another one in here and another one in here. I'm going to add a couple more down here on this side. We need a little bit more paint. So I'm going to scoop up some of that darker paint that I made. And again, I'm going to start with the top one. I'm making a little bit of a C, a backwards one, and I'm putting one on the left and one on the right. And again, this is just base coating. We'll do the same thing on the other side. And take your time. Sometimes our leaves, because of the divot here and the slope on the plate, they can get a little wonky. That's okay. I'm not gonna worry about that. Sometimes it's hard to control your brush when you have curves like that going on. And then I'm going to do this one up here. If yours overlap with the way I drew in your vines, that's okay. Your leaves can overlap a little bit. Like I just did that. I overlapped this one on top of that one. And then I'm gonna clean my brush again. If you're having problems with the leaves and you want me to see or show you again, or get a piece of scrap paper, I've been more than happy to. I have a drawer under my work table now for my mouse and my keyboard. So I have a lot more room up here now for my paint stuff and to keep the sample out. And my paint surface. I feel like we need music maybe. Should I sing? I don't think so. How's everyone's leaves coming? Okay. Is anybody struggling? Want me to show you again? You're all on mute, but feel free to unmute yourself. Ask any questions that you need to. Yell help if you want. And I'll give you guys a couple more minutes to get your leaves base coated in with the first coat. If you guys are going to spray these with a clear coat, even if you're going to use them, they should really sit for 24 to 48 hours before you start using them, putting pressure on them, wash them, or spray them with a clear coat. And when you wash them, I wouldn't use anything abrasive like the back of a scrubby pad or anything. A wash rag or a soft sponge is fine. But that's after they've already gotten to cure for at least 48 hours. Okay, when we're done with our green, we're going to wash our brush, dry it off really well. And I'm going to pick up some fresh white where I haven't contaminated it with the other colors. And I'm going to put in our center here. Okay. Now you can either wipe the white off or wash the white off, or just go right into one of your colors, whatever you want. And we're going to go back and we're going to put a second coat on our flowers. And this time you shouldn't need the white. If you have it on your brush from their center, that's totally okay. But we don't need to dip into the white to do our second coat like we did to do our first coat. Can you guys now see the difference in my yellows? Now I have a
Yeah.
much more vibrant yellow. And then this one. Your paint underneath should be dry. And you should get a nice brighter color on there now. Okay, so my magenta or fuchsia. And now I'm going to get my orange. There we go. Much better, much better. My art room is in the front of my house. Usually at this time of night, the sun is glaring through the windows. It's so beautiful and warm, but not tonight. It's a little gray. Not going to get any sun rays in here tonight. When we finish doing the second coat on our flowers, we're going to wash our brush and we're going to go back in and do a second coat on our leaves. But this time we only need the one color green, the light green. You don't have to mix more or get any more darker green at this point, because just adding the light green on top of what we mixed before is going to give us a nice blend. Alrighty. I'm going to pick up some of our green. And we don't have to do our stem again. But I'm just going in. You don't even have to draw the leaves again with your C and your backward C if you don't want. You can just take this little bit of the light green and fill in your leaves. You don't have to fill them in perfect, exactly the way they were to begin with. Because if you have some standing out or sticking out to the sides, that's totally okay because it just gives it more of dimension. Oops, just took my finger in one. So I'm just going around with my larger brush.
Teresa, that's just straight green?
It's just the straight light green, yep.
Okay.
And going over my leaves, even over here where they overlapped. Because I'll show you how, if you have overlapping leaves, how we're going to outline them later so you can see one and the other. I even have my one leaf overlapping my yellow flower a little bit. And there we go. So I have gone in. I didn't redo my stem. We don't really have to do that because we're going to highlight that again later. But I just used the light green and I went in here and just lightly stroked a second coat onto my leaves. And even some places like here, I didn't really do it exact, but that's okay because it just gives it a little bit of blending and a little bit more dimension to your leaf if it doesn't have the exact overlap. Even out here too, some of these. And you'll see when we get to the details, when our design comes to life, you'll see why these things we don't need to fret about. And then again, I'm going to wash my brush. I'm going to grab a little piece of scrap paper because I want to show you guys something. I use this gray paper because it's when I'm demoing, it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing than the white paper. The white with my camera and stuff has a lot of glare going on. So when I use the gray paper, you can see my strokes better. Oh, can't do it. Okay. So I'm just going to show you guys this. If you're still doing your second coats of your leaves and your flowers, that's okay. If you could look up for 1 second. So we have these polka dots on this large flower here. And I like the way the polka dots look. So even if you did this one in orange or the fuchsia, that's fine. If you don't want to put polka dots, that's fine too. But I'm going to show you how we do them. And we do them with the white paint. I'm going to get some white paint on my brush. If this is too difficult for you and you want to, I'll show you this way. If you want to go in and draw little circles and fill them in with your liner brush, you can. The polka dots do not have to be perfect. So you can pick up some round with your liner brush, you can do little circles and then fill them in. And that's one way. Another way is to get an ample amount of paint on your brush and to just take your brush and push it one way and then push it the other way. So we stand it up. And I'm just going to push it a little bit in a circle. And then I go back to where I stood it up to begin with. And I push it the opposite direction until they meet. And there we have little circles. If you want to do it this way, you can with the liner brush, or if you want to do it this way, you can too. We're going to stand up, we're going to push around, and then we come back to where we started and we go in the opposite direction, clockwise and then counterclockwise. And the more you push down on your brush, the bigger the circle you'll get. See that? I really pushed that time. But if I just want to, a little bit of pressure, and then come back up here with a little bit of pressure. Okay. That one didn't come so good, so I'm just going to come back on the first side. And there I fixed it. And I'm going to put a few of these polka dots on my large flower. You pretty much have to pick up paint every time. So I'm standing up. I'm going to come around a little bit counterclockwise, back to where I started, and then come around counterclockwise. You could even use your liner brush and do a half of one. I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to do a C, and then I'm going to fill that in. And that polka dot is partially on there. Now, I don't like the way I drew this in here in that corner. So I'm going to take a circle. I'm going to put a polka dot up in there. And covered it all right up. And now I have that really cool white contrasting polka dot. Sometimes I tell my painters, if at the end, if there's something that you don't love, we'll just stick a leaf over it. And it looks intentional. And I think I want another half of one over here. So again, I'm going to put a little half circle, half moon, C, whatever you want to call it, and fill it in. And maybe over here too. And now we have our polka dots done on our big flower. And I went in and added a second coat of my white center to that flower as well. Okay. Now we should have, either if you're using your little cups, that's fine. Or if not, and you put your paints out, that's fine too. But we have all the colors that we've used so far, the orange, the yellow, and the fuchsia. And when we go to add the details on these flowers, we're going to do it opposite. So for example, this flower here had the yellow base. So we didn't add yellow details to it. We added orange, white, and magenta. In this example, I had a little bit of purple, but we don't have purple tonight. So we did the orange, the yellow, the orange, the white, and the magenta. And the same thing for this one that we base coated orange. We have the white and the yellow and the magenta. And you guys are going to do the same thing. So depending on if you followed me, that's fine. So that would be easy enough. When we go to add our highlights and our squiggles to add all the details to our flower, we're not necessarily going to use the color that we base coated with. We're going to go around and use the other colors. And we're going to do that with our small liner brush. And I like to start with the white and then add the other colors. And we could always go back and add more white at the end, because if we start with the white and we add the other colors, we get a lot of blending going. And then we can come back around and add fresh white, and that really pops. How's everybody's polka dots? Does anybody
Working on 'em.
feel rushed? Or are we going at a good pace? You know, you will have access to the video as well if you need to hop off because your favorite show is coming on, or you need a cup of tea or a bathroom break. Don't fret, because we are recording this and you guys will have access to the recording within a couple of days. It takes, I usually start, it has to convert. It's a very techie thing. It has to convert, and then I have to upload it to send it to Miss Angela, and then Miss Angela gets it out to you guys. But we try to do it as quickly as we can. But you will have the recording. I am recording, and you guys will have the recording. So don't worry if you need to jump
If we're
off.
way behind.
Who said that?
Susan,
So where are you? What step are you on, Susan?
I just started doing dots.
Okay. That's fine.
My sister's still doing leaves though.
Your sister?
Yeah, she's doing leaves.
Okay, you just threw your sister right under the bus.
She did.
That's
And my
okay.
And my husband's caught up, I think.
Okay, good. Sometimes when I do my painting each month in my group, it's a free painting as well. People come on and sit and watch for entertainment. I guess I'm entertaining, but they'll sit and watch and paint like the next day or a couple of days later and then share the picture with me.
I was a little bit behind because my brush, the brush I got, the bigger brush is way too big. So I was trying to scramble with all of my personal brushes to find one that would work.
Oh, did you find one?
Well, sort of, but not as stiff as the one that you had. So it was a little, but I got it.
Okay.
Just
You have the
took me a
green
bit.
handle brushes, right?
Yeah, but I have one that's like twice the width of the rest of my husband and my sister.
Is it in the camera?
Oh, okay. Yeah, you have one of the larger ones, and that was way too big.
Yeah,
Well, it
see the
shouldn't,
difference?
it might have been too big for the flowers. I don't know that it was, it might have been too big for the leaves, but it shouldn't have really been too big for the flowers.
Yeah, no, I probably could have gotten away with the flowers.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna be.
I actually have all my boxes here because I have to put in another order for brushes.
After the dots, are we supposed to be doing something, Teresa?
Oh, yeah, waiting for me to stop chit chatting.
No, I'm just, I don't know if I was caught up or I'm
No,
just.
no, okay. So we're going to start adding the details to our flowers. We're going to get our liner brush again, and we're going to start with white. Every one of these is going to get the white. And we want to get a decent amount of paint on our brush. And we are going to do, they're like commas or apostrophe strokes. We're going to put our brush down and make a stroke. Put our brush down and make a stroke. And go around in a circle, following the shape of the flower. And then we're going to go over here. I'm going to do the same thing. They're just little tiny commas, backward C's, apostrophes, whatever you want to call them. And they're following the shape of our flower.
Teresa, first all the flowers get the white dots in the centers.
No, not yet. We do those last.
Oh, the white dots in the center is last.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just making these comma strokes
Perfect.
in the shape of the flower. And our flowers are a little wonky. They're not exactly round. That's okay. We didn't want them exactly perfectly round. I like to move my surface around. I feel like it's easier, especially with this plate, to keep going like this and moving the surface around than it is to like be twisting up my arm in all different directions. So I'll just, sometimes I just keep my hand in the same place and just keep moving the surface. And we're going to do 2 rows of white in each. But with the second row, you see how these two have a gap? The second row, when we come in here, is going to be a little bit smaller, and it's almost going to go in between the first two. These have a little bit of a crossover because of the awkwardness, but this one, we don't want them to line up. We want them to be opposite. So I had these two, and now I put this one in the middle of them. Now I have these two, and I'm putting that one in the middle. So this one is just, they're a little bit smaller because our circle is smaller. And they're just going in between the first two that we had. And then this is our largest one. And I'm just using the very tip of the brush, and I'm making these little tiny comma strokes to span the middle of the first two that I did on the first row. And some of mine are longer. This one's a little stubby. This one's medium size. And then after I do the white in every flower, I'm not even going to wash my brush, but I'm going to pick up the yellow. And we're going to do the same thing on the flowers that aren't yellow. So I'll start with the fuchsia one. And again, I have these two. I'm going to add the yellow to the middle of the first two, where the gap is.
Teresa, we're adding yellow to all of them?
Any flower, not the yellow one, the orange
Okay.
and the fuchsia,
Okay, thank you.
okay? There isn't really any reason to add yellow to the yellow. So we're just gonna add it to the orange and the fuchsia. So now I added that yellow one in between. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the orange. I'm gonna come in here. I'm adding these little yellow strokes in between my white. And on this one, because this flower is smaller than this one, and I already did 2 rows of the yellow, I mean 2 rows of the white, I only have 4 yellow strokes in there, and that's totally fine. While I'm doing yellow, I'm going to add a few random yellows in between the whites, where I had the first 2 rows of white. I'm adding yellow in between them. On both flowers. Sometimes they're a little hard to squeeze in there, but that's okay. They can touch, they can overlap, they can blend. And I'm just gonna wipe off the yellow. I don't have to go into the water. You can if you want, I'm not going to. And now I'm gonna pick up some orange. And so we're not gonna put orange on our orange flower. We're gonna add orange to our fuchsia and our yellow. And the same exact thing, these little apostrophe strokes in front, the next row. So in my fuchsia, they only got a few orange there. And then I'm going to add orange up in here between the white. And also up in here. And these will start overlapping a little bit because now we don't have a lot of room. I'm going to randomly put some orange in where I have my yellow and my white.
You said you put some fuchsia on the yellow and the
I
orange?
didn't put the fuchsia yet. So far we've done white on all
Oh.
the flowers. We've
Sorry,
done
okay. I
yellow
had to go
on
out.
the orange and the fuchsia. And then we've done orange on the fuchsia and the yellow.
I went out to get fresh water. I missed that.
Fresh water for your brush or fresh water to drink?
No, fresh water for my brush.
Okay. So when I got certified as a one-stroke decorative painter, I don't know why, but part of the certification, when you do these 11 by 14, you have to do 5 11 by 14 floral designs that they give you to do. And so each of them has their own elements, whether it's sunflowers or a rose or whatever. And so you have to do 5 different ones. And each time you do an 11 by 14, you're not allowed to change your water. You have to use the same
Oh.
water, no matter how dark, gray, muddy it gets, because it's like a
Oh.
thing, I guess, to show you, like, if you're not using too much paint to begin with, your water shouldn't need to be changed. I don't know, but I change my water. I don't change my water often, but if I'm painting like one particular project and then I'm going to switch and do a different project, I'll change my water and then come back in here and start over. But yeah, when you get
Uh-huh.
certified, you can't change your water. I don't know why. I mean, there was water, there's plenty of water.
Yeah, yeah. We don't have
Yeah.
a shortage, thank God.
It's just part of it, you know. So this is what I have so far. My polka dots, and then we've added the details to some of our flowers. We didn't do the fuchsia yet, but we did the orange and the white. Each flower got white. And then we put the orange on the fuchsia and the yellow, and we put the yellow on the orange and the fuchsia.
Okay.
Okay. And then when you're done with the orange, you can wash your brush, and we're going to go into the fuchsia, and we're going to repeat the process now on our yellow and our orange flowers with the fuchsia. Again, I'm just going to get a little fuchsia on my liner brush. And I'm going to start adding in little tiny comma strokes in the middle of my yellow flower, and then in the middle of my orange flower. And then I'm going to come out here and add a fuchsia layer in with the other colors. And in this case, it's yellow and orange. And up here, it's the white and the yellow. And sometimes I find a gap, and sometimes they overlap. I might even, let's see, how is this going to work? Oh, yeah. So I'm adding, and you guys don't have to, I'm just playing around. I added a little bit of fuchsia to the outside ring of my fuchsia flower over the white. So that just gave it a different look. Just a couple of them.
We're adding the fuchsia, Teresa, to the yellow and orange,
Yes,
and just in the
Fuchsia.
centers or all over?
into the center, and
Mhm.
then put a ring outside among your original, either yellow and orange, or, I mean, yeah, your yellow and your white, or your orange and your white,
Mhm.
depending on the flower. So I added a little fuchsia inside my yellow, and then a little fuchsia to the outside ring of my orange and yellow. And then I'll wash my brush again. Next month, you guys, June, we are painting 8-inch clay pots with a floral design on them. Get ready for our summer plantings. You could even, we're going to paint one in our class, and then if you want to paint other different sizes or matching ones, you'll have the video and you can do that. And then in July, we're doing gnomes again, but we're doing different gnomes. I have a totally different design for the gnomes, and one is actually female, and she has these really cool braids.
Teresa, some of my flower leaves are going the wrong way. Can I just wipe them off?
Some of your
With
leaves are
water?
going the wrong way.
Some of them.
If you want, how wonky are they? Do you want to show me?
Can you see?
Yes, turn your picture all the way around the other way. Oh, yeah. You know what? They look okay and I wouldn't worry about it because when we outline them,
Okay,
you can outline them in the correct direction. Let me show you on
Okay.
here. It's like, for example, this one.
right.
I put this outline in here. It's not really outlined. It doesn't take up the whole thing. It's not on the edge. It's just a little bit, it adds a little dimension. So when we go back in here with our black and white, you can make sure that when you do this, it's going in the right direction.
Okay,
Even if
great.
your base coat of your flower is not, and it'll look fine.
Thank you.
Okay. When we're done with that fuchsia, we're gonna wash our brush and we're gonna pick up some white again. And we're going to dot the centers of our flowers. And don't be too careful. Don't be perfect. We're just dotting in some dots. Push down and dot around. And while I'm doing that, I'm not even gonna wash my brush. I'm gonna pick up some orange. Should have done the orange first. I'm gonna pick up some orange and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm dotting the center of my big yellow flower with some orange. And now I have to wash my brush again because I did that backwards. A little spill on there. Ooh. Now we're going to stick with our liner brush and our white. I'm going to go back with our leaves. I'm going to use the liner brush. I'm going to pick up white. And the first thing I want to do is go in and add some highlight to our stem. And again, this does not have to be a complete line. I'm just adding in some white highlight to the stem of our little vine or our leaves going up the side of the plate. If you want, you can even like take your little liner brush and go dab, 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 all the way up. That's up to you. My lines don't really touch and they're thicker and thinner in places. And that's good. And then like I was just telling, I think it was Josephine, we're going to continue with our white and we're going to make little leaf shapes on our leaves, starting with the white. They can be on the edge or to the middle. It's okay if you have the green to the outside. If your leaves are facing a different direction, make sure when you do these, it's on most of the green, but that you all have them facing in the same direction on the angle where they're coming into the stem and pointing outward. None of mine have complete coverage. It's just almost as how we started the leaves to begin with the C and then the comma. In all our leaves. Oh, I'm missing a leaf there. I'm gonna have to fix that. And I pick up a little bit of paint almost for every leaf. There we go. I stuck that one in there, but I wanted it to kind of look like it's underneath. I'm not going to do a whole leaf there because I forgot about it and my orange is wet now. So I just stuck that little piece in there and I went and added the white to it. And I'm going to do the same thing with our flowers. I'm going to trace as best I can. And it doesn't have to be perfect. The black line, because you can probably still see the black marker line. If your paint goes beyond the marker, put your white on the paint. If your paint for your flower covers the marker line, keep following the marker line. I don't know if that makes sense. Like here, for example, my orange is way out here. I'm going to bring my white way out there. But in here, my orange, my black is on my orange. So I'm just going to keep going with the black. Whatever is the outermost edge, whether it's the marker or the paint, that's where we're going to put the white. And we're going to do the same thing for the big petals on the big flower. What, just outlining. All of the elements on our plate with the white. So I'll give you guys some time. We'll put this here. There we go. Okay, so I've added white to outline all the leaves. I've added a little bit of white to the stems of our leaves. And then I've traced the outermost edge of each of our flowers. The wildflowers here, the fuchsia and the orange and the yellow, and then the big petals on our big flower. In some cases, I went right over the marker. And in some cases, the paint was to the outside of the marker, so I hugged the paint. I did the outermost edge.
Oh, shoot.
If you did something that you don't love, we can fix it. If you need a little corner of a paper towel to wipe it off, if you got it on the plate, or if it's on your flower, we can fix it. You can let it dry and we can go over it, or we can just wipe it out. Sometimes I like to take my paper towel, or if you have a spare paper towel laying around and you want to fold it and fold it and fold it until you get it where the point where you can fold it over. And now you have a very stiff corner and a very thin corner, and it can get in between like that. So you can take it, if you have like a spare paper towel laying around, even the one you're using, as long as you can get it folded up into a rectangle or a square or something, and then fold one of the corners over, Then you have this, it's pretty sturdy and compact, and you can get in areas. It's a lot easier to do that than to take your finger, because you'll, our fingers are too big and we're getting paper towel everywhere. And sometimes when we try to fix something, we gotta go in there and we make something else wonky, and then we're like, oh no, and it grows. So. Okay. I'm washing out my liner brush. And I'm going to pick up some black. If you're black now, we've been here since 6:30, about an hour and 15 minutes. If your black is a little thick, or if you put it out and it has a little skin on it, just dip your brush in water and then come right over here on the edge and mix it in to loosen it up a little bit. You don't want too much water. You don't want, like, if you hold your brush upright like this, you don't want water to come dripping down the edge, because that's how much water you put in your brush. You want your paint, if you stand your brush up like this, you want your paint to stay on your brush. So just add a tiny bit, like just put the tip of your brush, if you need to. It really depends on how warm our homes are, how dry our homes are, our lighting. It depends on a lot of things. So if your black got thick when it was sitting around, just put the tip of your brush in a little bit of water and mix it in on the edge. I didn't go into my whole pile and mix it up. Nope, I just came over here on the edge, pulled some out. And then we want to make sure that our paint is not dripping off the end of our paintbrush. Okay. We want to be sparing with our black, and we want to be as light-handed as we can. And we're just going to add a few center dots to our flowers, just a few. We want the white in our flowers to be the dominant color. And I have 4 here, I want 5, so I'm just going to add another one, but that's it. And the same thing, so wherever we had white, we're now going to go in and we're going to darken it up. We're going to add a little bit of shading with our black on our stems, but we want to be able to see our white. So I'm just going to add a little bit of black in here on my stems. And then I'm going to go back and do the same thing on the flowers, except not the whole thing this time. So I'm going to add maybe a bigger one there and a little bit of a stem. So maybe on the right, I'll almost make a whole one. On the left, I'll add less, and then I'll pull a little stem in from the bottom. So I make a large apostrophe on the right, like a half a one on the left, and then a little bit of a stem. And they do not have to be the same size. On this one, my white was inside my green, so I put my black a little bit to the outside. This does 2 things. kind of takes over your white, so your white isn't as bright. And it adds a little bit of shading to your leaves. There's two up here. And if some of my leaves are far away, some of my leaves touch, but some of my leaves are far away. So when I came in here with my stem, I made it a little bit longer to come from the vine. This one's a little bit closer, so I can just put a stem like that and it's close enough. This one's actually completely touching. So I'll do my black and I'll do my stem. And if you get to a point where you've used up all your black that was thin, just pick up a little bit of water again. But this black goes a long way. Oh, forgot one over here again. Two. Come to this side. Stem. If you see, when I use my liner brush, I hold it against my middle finger, and my pointer finger is flapping around. I feel like that helps me get a little bit less pressure. On my liner brush. And when I do the outlines of my leaves, I'm always pulling down from the point. So when I do the top of the leaf, I pull down from the point. And when I do the stem, I pull up from the point. So the top, pull down from the point, and then for the stem, I pull up from that point. So that's the touch. There we go. Yeah. So if you have leaves that are just out there floating away from your stem or your vine, just connect it with a little bit of black. I'm going to keep going with the black. I'm going to pick up a little bit more on my liner brush, and I'm going to add a few sporadic black dots to the center of our big flower. And now we're going to outline our flowers where our marker was if we need to cover it. So here where I have the white in my center, I outlined it with the black and covered my marker. I'm going to do the same thing with my big petals. And we already have the white on there. So that's good. We just want to add a little bit of the black to it. And this one, my line was all the way in here, so I'm just going to follow my line. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to come in and do it there. And I'm okay with that. And then we want to add these little inside U's. Well, they're upside down U's to the insides of our big petals. And then we're going to go around our other flowers where we went around with the white. Doesn't have to be complete. There can be gaps in your black. We're just adding a little bit of shading. I'm going over my marker lines. And we're starting to really define the shapes of our flower. I made these little lines. It's mostly, so here I missed, we're not gonna worry about that, it just could be part of the flower. And over here, I went over the black. Here I did the black. This polka dot here has that marker under it, which I didn't like. So I'm just going to add a little bit more white with my liner brush to that polka dot and cover that up. Now that it's been there a while, and do the same thing to this one.
Teresa?
Yes.
So I'm like, after we did the black in the leaves, then we're doing the black
on the borders.
on the borders of the
Yes.
flowers.
So after we did the black in the leaves, I added a few dots to the center of this flower. And then we outlined every petal here and these 3 flowers.
Okay.
I did a little bit of black here around the center of the flower. I added these little bit upside down U's. And then I went around all the flowers. As light touch, there are gaps, some of the areas, but it just really defines the flower and it makes now all the colors that we painted in there really pop. I am going to stop recording, so just bear with me for 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this flower class.